30th. I can't believe that. September 30th, and welcome to the 12-Step Big Book Workshop. My name is Lisa, and I'm a long-term student of the 12 Steps Method of Recovery. My focus is, my focus is off. My focus fellowships are CODA, Al-Anon, and OA. And I'm very glad you're all here, and I hope you feel free to participate as we get to the end of the PowerPoint. So please join me on mute in the set-aside prayer with a commitment to have an open mind, an open heart, and the gift of receiving it beyond our wildest dreams. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my unmanageability, and you as my source of power, so that I may have a new experience with myself, my life, my unmanageability, and especially with you. And in case you haven't noticed or didn't notice tonight, I do mix up the words every couple of meetings to kind of reflect what we're going through. And also as an example, to set an example for you guys so that you can do your own set-aside prayers. This prayer is so instrumental in recovery. So if you can put your own words in there and you use it on a daily basis, it'll really help with your own recovery. So we are crossing over tonight into the final stage of the first stage of the rocket launch. We looked at step 1, which is part of the first stage, a discovery experience and an understanding of hopefully something new for you, whether that is knowledge or experience with regard to step 1. The point is, we do not have sufficient power to be effective. Well, maybe in the area of unmanageability. For the first time, an understanding of the bedevilments, the cancer of the soul, the spiritual malady, and then an in-depth search for a higher power. And now we're entering into that final phase of this first stage, which is to establish our relationship with the power greater than ourselves. The purpose of step 3 in the Big Book is about a relationship. Step 1 is about an experience of no power in some fashion, maybe with regard to our addiction, maybe with regard to our lives and reality itself. Then we embark on a process of a decision about faith, quite an empty leap of faith decision, in fact, about our higher power or God, the concept, and we make a decision for ourselves. The balance of the step process, of course, is to clean house using steps 4 through 9. Step 3 is all about the launching pad, the commitment, and the beginning of our journey. In fact, you'll note when you get to take a look at the step 3 prayer, even though you've prayed it many times, this step 3 prayer doesn't end with an amen. And it's curious because all prayers usually have an amen. Why doesn't step 3 have an amen? What might Bill have been thinking about that? In my mind, amen means an end. It's the end of the prayer. And I believe Bill was thinking this is the beginning of the cleaning of the house. So we don't want to end the prayer. We want that prayer to continue, become a continuum. That's what I'm thinking, but you guys can draw your own conclusion. The rocket launch has 3 stages. The first stage is 1 through 3, our relationship with power. The second stage is a relationship with ourselves. Steps 4 through 7 is part of the third stage. The final phase is the cleaning house portion of the triangle, which is steps 8 and 9, our relationship with others, and cleaning out the obstacles to those relationships, and then entering the world of the spirit, according to Bill. As we get into steps 10, 11, and 12, the turning that we committed to in step 3, we made a decision to turn from our self-centeredness to other-centeredness. That is what we learned in unmanageability. It is pretty clear with step 11, other being spelled with a capital O, and step 12, others with a small o. Bill says to remember to keep your head in the clouds and your feet on the ground. Head in the clouds, feet on the ground means to have ambitious dreams and grand visions while remaining practical, grounded, and aware of reality. It's about balancing creativity and imagination, the head in the clouds, with practical action and common sense, the feet on the ground, to achieve goals. It's really just all about balance, which we're not great at yet. And we've looked at the question, is God necessary? And it's up to you to decide whether or not the God word is relevant to you and what that means. And perhaps ask yourself, what would be a synonym that works for you for that? See if you can come up with one. As we approached step 2, we noted that step 2 doesn't have the word God in it, but it does have the word power there. This isn't subtle. It is very obvious and upfront in your face, kind of. Step 2 is not about God. It is about our concept of God, our understanding of God, as we interpret that. And we discovered through the Big Book process that it is a decision that we are being faced with. It doesn't say it in the Big Book as overtly as I'm going to say it, but it does say it. If we're reading intelligently what Bill says on page 53, God is or God isn't, what is your choice? All throughout this chapter, Bill was emphatic about it being our concept, not the book's, not Bill's, not AA's, not your religious opinion or your loved ones. This is the act of faith, an action based on belief, trust, or conviction, especially when there is no clear guarantee or proof of a positive outcome. The willingness we need in order to make that decision, which then becomes the cornerstone of our journey through the arch to a new freedom, as Bill would say. So then we entered into step 3 after we made the decision about our concept. Trying to understand, what does Bill mean? Made a decision to turn? The word surrender comes to mind when we look at step 3, but it is not in the 3rd step, and it is not in the Big Book at all. Herb's editor actually did a word search for him and said it is not in the Big Book, nor is it in the 12 and 12 either. Surrender sounds good. We hear it in the rooms all the time. I surrender, I give up, I wave the proverbial white flag, but it is a misperception. In fact, it leads us into some misunderstanding of step 3. Surrender is a better term used for step 1. Defeated by our addiction and defeated by our lives, we give up, we surrender. So let's take a look at made a decision to turn. So simple, and I am using my free will to turn, but what is it that I'm turning? Well, Bill says our will and our lives. But what does that actually mean? And notice it doesn't say over to God. I'll mention this more than this one time, and you may get sick of hearing it, but it is very important that we all absorb this. We turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. Now, what does that mean? Of course, as we understood God, coming out of step 2, Bill is faithful to this concept. So let's take a look at the Big Book, chapter 5, how it works. There is a story around in all the rooms from, it's 1941, that an Al-Anon wife brought the Big Book to a small group of alcoholic men because she was married to one of them, and she had discovered the book and gave it to their group. And she said, hey guys, back east, they've found this great book and it's helpful. And they were like, okay, we don't really know what to do with it. While another person looked at the table of contents and flipped through to chapter 5 and said, well, look at here. It says how it works. Maybe we should read that first. And the group read the book, and that is pretty much the story about how it got started in California, that they would read the tradition of reading chapter 5 in AA meetings. It's a great story. I don't know if it's true or not, but it makes a lot of sense. The big book says, rarely have we seen a person fail. Now, Bill wanted it to say never. It was in one of the original manuscripts, but the group said that alcoholics are so contrary that if you put the word never in there, they're going to try to prove you wrong. So we think you should make it less black and white. So Bill chose to use the word rarely instead. So it's rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. The key word is thoroughly. Thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves over to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. Let's take a better look at what Bill is saying here, because he makes the effort to clarify this point before he goes on further. He's making the point that rigorous honesty is, in fact, one of the primary ingredients of how this works. But here he is saying constitutionally incapable, which not good news. So the word constitution means their biological structure. He reinforces that interpretation with, there are such unfortunates, they are not at fault, they seem to have been born that way. It's a biological predisposition to a lack of capacity. We can't be sure if that means they are mentally incapable due to a biological issue or that they are sociopaths or psychopaths. Bill doesn't tell us, but all of those people who are constitutionally, by their very constitution, are biologically incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living that demands rigorous honesty. So he is really giving us the baseline here. One of the key ingredients of how it works is being rigorously honest, like to a fault. So rigorous honesty is a commitment to uncompromising truthfulness with oneself and others, a foundational principle in 12-step recovery and a path toward personal growth in authentic relationships. It means being truthful even when it's difficult, confronting denial, taking personal inventory, and acknowledging one's mistakes and actions without justification. While not about being cruel or unnecessarily harsh, rigorous honesty involves full disclosure, empathy, and careful consideration of when and how to communicate difficult truths to build deeper and more trusted connections. When I was getting rigorously honest, I used a sticky note that read, "You are now looking at the problem." And I stuck it on my mirror so that when I would look in the mirror, I would see who the problem was. I would like to emphasize the importance of the word honest. It doesn't say brutally honest or wicked honest or fatally honest. The point is to be set free from the pain of dishonesty and not to cause further harm to ourselves. We have a tendency to beat ourselves up. This is not an invitation to do that, but to be 100% honest without the destruction of ourselves. So if you need to add a little sticky note to your mirror, which I love sticky notes and I love putting them on the mirror because don't we always look there? Just as a reminder that the problem is inside of us, not outside of us. Bill says they are naturally, by their very nature, incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. He says their chances are less than average. He's talking about the balance of the human race here. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders. He's stating two categories here, emotional and mental. So there will be challenges in both areas, not necessarily in the same person, but it could be. He also says many of them do recover if they have that capacity to be that honest. There is the question, the key, which is, do they have the capacity needed? Some people just don't. So our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, meaning what happened during our life during active addiction. Where was the moment, that monumental snapshot of time, where there was a change in our thinking, feeling, and behaviors? Some people know the exact moments, some people aren't quite sure. For some of us, it was a profound awareness, perhaps from doing the steps or going to meetings or to church, or maybe even to a therapist. That very specific moment of clarification is talked about for some of us, but then other people struggle for years before they actually get some traction with sobriety and or abstinence. The point is, no matter what our affliction was, we are all here because we want a spiritual awakening. It's an extremely important sentence. If you have decided you want what we have, what does he mean, what we have? Well, if you're aware of someone with recovery or you are going to a fellowship meeting, you know they have something that you don't have, which is usually abstinence from whatever the addiction is. And even if you don't see that, you see them smiling and having a fairly decent time with their lives and making progress. If you have decided you want what we have, you might not even know what they have, but you are convinced you don't want what you already have. And are willing to go to any length to get it. Well, what does that imply? It doesn't mean to do something outrageous like jumping off a roof, something crazy. What is talked about in terms of willingness of going to any length? The book completes the sentence after the dash because it allows us to pause and reflect. Willing to go to any length, then you are ready to take certain steps. This is one of the questions I had asked way back in the beginning, and I asked you guys to ask yourselves. So this is Bill warming us up for the arrival to the altar. At some of these, we balked these certain steps. And I have to say that, quite frankly, most of the steps are balked at. And we thought we could find an easier, softer way. This is human nature and the addict's way. But we could not, which is why we get back to it. Bill says there are only two disciplines in recovery. One is the addictive substance or behavior, and the other is God. You are going for one or you are going for the other. It's pretty profound. You are either going towards the light or you're going towards the darkness. There really is no middle ground because that is human nature with all the earnestness at our command. Bill says, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Well, for you perfectionists out there, myself included, we do the best we can, fully realizing it is not the best we can, but we do it anyways. You cannot do this wrong. The only thing that you can do wrong here is to not do it at all. It doesn't matter how thorough you are in the sense that by your judgment and criteria, it is your best. It does not matter. Each time I do the steps, my understanding goes deeper in terms of my awakening, and I grow even broader. I often think I know it. I know the answers for sure, and I always learn something new. Some of us had tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go, absolutely. This is exactly what we are doing with the set-aside prayer and the set-aside attitude. The primary phrase that launched the set-aside prayer is, quote, to let go of my knowledge and let go of my experience so that I can be taken to a place of new knowledge and new experience areas that I didn't even know existed. Remember that we deal with addiction. It's cunning, baffling, and powerful. But it is all inert. Alcohol, drugs, food, sex, gambling. It's inert, meaning it doesn't have a mind of its own. It has no will. It is not waiting to get us. That's just crazy. It is a way of talking for us to talk about the baffling feature of our addiction. But we need to be clear. It is in us, our knowledge, our willpower that fails us. There is nothing that has a magnetic ability in terms of addiction. It is inert. Without help, it is too much for us, and that is the decision that we made at the end of step 1. There is one who has all the power. That is the decision we made in step 2 about God. So the set-aside prayer was created by Joe Hawk, a member of AA from Santa Monica, is a way for people in recovery to open their minds to new ideas by asking their higher power to take away their preconceived notions and allow them to see the truth. It's derived from concepts and direction found in the Big Book, pages 47 and 48, which encourages members to set aside prejudice and the belief that they know everything. Some key concepts to the prayer. Humility. It helps people recognize their own imperfections and that their current understanding might be incomplete or incorrect. Letting go. It encourages acceptance of things one cannot control and the willingness to discard lifelong conceptions that might be hindering our growth. Open-mindedness. By asking to set aside preconceived notions, the prayer promotes a new experience with oneself, others, and the principle of recovery. The reason the set-aside prayer helps so much is that it's not about fixing things, it's about making room. It creates space in our mind for something different, something real. It allows us to stop reacting from fear and start listening for the truth. Bill says on page 59, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Bill is pointing the way to the light, but unfortunately, some people get to a place where they have a teacher and they begin worshiping the teacher, or they begin worshiping the finger that does the pointing. And the teacher stands on the path, pointing the way with their finger, pointing to the light. We want to jump over all of that and go right to the light. And on page 59, he says, half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. Read it again because 50% will not cut it. 75% will get you nothing. 99% will still get you nothing. But before you run out and quit and you think, oh boy, I can't do it perfectly, okay, we need to just do it the best way we can. We just need to do it. When we looked at the balance of Bill's story on page 14 at the very top, he described the program and its process as simple but not easy. A price had to be paid. It meant the destruction of our self-centeredness. It meant the destruction of self-centeredness. I must turn in all things to the Father of light who presides over us all. That is what we are striving for, to transcend. We stood at the turning point. Bill is again leading us up. In step 3, we asked for his protection and care with complete abandon. It is amazing when you really pay attention to the words in the material. In step 3, It is the most ideal of all of the steps because he talks in terms of absolutes: honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love. Step 3 comes pretty close to the absolutes. Bill was trying not to associate with the Oxford group, which is where he learned these absolutes, but he didn't want to use anything that connected to them because of the religious connotation. So he avoided the terms, but he does talk about it pretty much here. We ask his protection and care with complete abandon. Can we do that? No, we cannot. But I am willing to be taken to a place through the steps we take, which are suggested as a program of recovery. So up next on page 59 are the 12 steps, which I don't believe I need to read. And then on page 60, many of us exclaimed, "What an order. I can't go through with it." Well, yeah, especially if you take an intelligent look at step 4 with its complete inventory and step 5 as a confession. Most people would be horrified at that task. But Bill's words assure us, do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. I think Bill hit that one right on the head. The point is, we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The dimmer switch mechanism, it is one of the best metaphors. It goes up a notch at a time and it doesn't go up on its own. We lean gently into it, put our shoulder against the switch and press gently against it, and we move it forward a notch, one tiny click at a time. The dimmer switch is on a greased axle and it's wired to be able to go backwards. This is why it's suggested that we lean gently into the dimmer switch, into the steps, into our new way of living. Not aggressively, not with a ton of energy trying to wrestle it to the ground, because that would be self-will. Our willpower is there to make a decision to move toward the light. So I lean gently against the dimmer, moving it up. Bill says, being convinced, we were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood him. Just what does he mean by that? And just what do we do? What does our will mean? Well, that is a human function of making a decision about my life. Bill doesn't tell us what it means, but my will is the function that makes my decisions, a function of the actions and the consequences of those decisions. We'll take a look at those actions and consequences when we do the step 4. Then we'll have a much deeper technicolor understanding of it when we get there. Appealing to the two things that makes us specifically human, the two things that are the primary components of our addiction. One of them is our powerlessness. Our mind is vulnerable to the obsession, and our will is vulnerable to our self-will unmanageability. The two things that make us human are implored and implied. Rather, in step 2, we made a decision as to whether God is, and my mind accepts it, and my feet behave as if it's true. And here we are now at step 3, and Bill is asking us again, what does he mean by that? Our turning our will and our life over to the care of God. He's appealing to our mind so that we have some kind of knowledge. Remember the assignment on pages 60, 61, and 62 on unmanageability? That's what is meant, that we have free will. But it's not free when it comes to our self-will, because we are self-will run riot. We're still human beings with free will, so we can choose God or know God, because on our own, we are going to choose ourself. So we are going to use that willpower in step 2 just to choose God. And we are going to use our willpower in step 3 to choose our relationship that we have with God. So the answer to the question of what does he mean on pages 60, 62, where self-will runs riot on our own, and yet we have free will. We have a responsibility to choose God and to choose our relationship with God. So the answer to how and what do we do, this is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, we are his agents. He is the father, we are his children. Don't be intimidated by this, but challenge it. What does it mean to abandon ourselves utterly to God, voicing it without reservations? Notice the first paragraph on page 63, a description of the promises. We hear a lot about promises in the rooms. After the 9th step, pages 83 and 84, are wonderful promises, magnificently contrasted to the bedevilments, which is ironic, but it has been said that the bedevilments are literally the promises just turned around. And we don't know if Bill did that on purpose or not, but it's pretty amazing. When I turned from my self-centeredness, which is the bedevilments, to my other-centeredness, which is my higher power and the people around me, the bedevilments become the promises, almost word for word. It's pretty remarkable, and I like to think, as I said, Bill was completely aware of doing that when he wrote it that way. On page 63 in the first paragraph are the promises of step 3, rich and full of promise, but they're approximate. They are not as complete as the step 9 promises. So it's a little bit of a condensed version. Bill says on page 63, we were reborn. We began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker as we understood him, this is the 3rd step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may be a witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. So as suggested, you hopefully took the time to write your own 3rd step prayer based on the words in the prayer. Not to improve it, but to understand it. When you have to put these words in the book into your own words, you really get to understand what the words in the book are saying. Ask yourself, what relationship does your heart yearn for? From the level of your soul, from your cellular level, what do you want and need in a relationship with your higher power? On page 47, Bill said, willingness was the cornerstone of a spiritual arch through which we are going to walk to a new freedom. These are key concepts that he reinforces here in step 3, and he calls step 3 the keystone. The keystone is an architectural word that connotes that at the top of the spiritual arch, at the top of the arch in architectural construction verbiage, the keystone holds the entire arch together. So if you look at that keystone, it seems to defy gravity, almost like it's floating there. Step 3 is that important. It is the keystone to recovery. It holds it all together. Step 3 is that important. It is a commitment to turn. It is not the turning again. It is not the turning. It is the awareness that we need to turn away from our self-centeredness to other-centeredness. And Bill very aptly pointed out, and you may want to reread that material just to refresh your understanding of it. And remember, on page 62 at the end of it, Bill says, neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying to on our own power. We had to have God's help. And we need God's help because we are powerless. We do not have power of choice about our reality and about ourself or our self-will. We're flawed. So we turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. Now, what does that mean? Notice that it does not say over to God. This is intentional. It says we turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. That word, care, is a central word that signals the grace part. The word turn, made a decision to turn, is the central word that signals the willingness. Part like in step 2, there is a mystery here, a connection between my willingness and action and grace. I can't explain it. I can only observe it. It isn't clear in the big book because Bill doesn't use this word, but it is clear when you read and understand the big book as it builds momentum and it has analogies and metaphors. Step 3 is about the relationship. Step 2 is about the concept. In fact, a concept about my choice of a concept, my decision for that concept, an act of faith. Step 3 is my decision for a relationship. Bill said on page 55, whatever this power is, it's deep down inside of me. Therefore, it is available to me, and I need to have a relationship with this power in order to deal effectively with my addiction and then the ability to deal successfully with my unmanageability. A relationship with power, and you get to choose what that means. The big book will not answer this question for you. The big book has synonyms you are welcome to use for step 2 and 3 if you haven't challenged yourself with the question of what relationship you yearn for. In the deepest possible part of your very soul, with a yearning that led you to your addictions in life because you thought you could quell that yearning with your addiction or that you would feel complete within yourself and have balance if you only had the proper relationship, enough money, great reputation, great beauty or power, and of course, none of that ever works. As Pascal said, the whole in us is in the shape of God. In the shape of this power, in the shape of this reality, whatever it is, this life force is an organismic life force. So on page 60, are you convinced that you have a need for power? This is the foundation of the spiritual arch through which we walk to a new freedom, that we are willing to make this ambiguous faith decision in step 2. And then a huge commitment in step 3 to continue on to steps 4 through 9. We decided to turn our will and our life over to our higher power as we understand that, and just what do we mean, and then what do we do? And I make the suggestion that pages 60 to 62 are the pages that we looked at regarding unmanageability as a description of the underlying cause and condition of the bedevilments. Bill says on page 62 that selfishness, self-centeredness is the root of the problem, that we are extreme examples of self-will run riot. We made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. That is what we mean, that we made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. This is what it is meant when it is said that our troubles are of our own making. We must be rid of the selfishness. And then Bill says God makes that possible. And this is what is meant when it's said that our troubles are of our own making. This is what we must be rid of, this selfishness. Bill is now intimating in step 3, you make a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God. Do you have the power to do that? There often seems no way of entirely getting rid of this self without God's aid. He is setting the bar very high. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions, but we could not live up to them. Even though we would have liked to, we do what we don't want to do, and we don't do what we do want to do. That is the bullseye target for unmanageability. But it is worthwhile reminding us of that here because it is the launching pad for step 3. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We have to have God's help. There will come a time and a place where we will have no mental defense against our addiction. Bill is saying we have no power over our self-centeredness. We can't even reduce it much by wishing or trying on our own power. We are hopeless and helpless, and yet fully responsible. On page 62 has the answer to what we do. This is how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. This is what the bedevilments are all about. Me and my self-centeredness, the person suffering from the bedevilments from their self-centeredness not only believes that they are the center of their life, but they are the center of the world. Likely, we're not doing this consciously, but it is how we operate, and you may not be convinced of this at this point. But at the end of the 4th step, if you haven't done one out of the big book, you are going to be convinced. You will say or think, oh my God, I thought I was the center of the universe and that my script is what really should be or is, and when it is not, I have what I believe is justifiable anger or some other negative reaction because life is not living up to my expectations. That is the bottom line of step 4. Bill says we need to quit playing God. It didn't work. We decided hereafter in this drama of life, Bill loves the theater, God is going to be our director. God is the father and we are the children. We have a new employer, a new maker, a new creator. These are all relationships we form as we welcome a higher power into our lives. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept, the relationship, is the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. The first half of the first step is the bondage of addiction. The second half of the first step is the bondage of self-unmanageability. After step 9 and into step 10 at the beginning, Bill says, we enter the world of the spirit. We are placed in a position of neutrality with regards to our addiction. That is the freedom from the addiction. And later on, he said, we have a daily reprieve. Freedom from our unmanageability, freedom from our self-centeredness, freedom from the spiritual malady. But there is a condition there, and that is that we commit to and practice and embrace the daily way of life, steps 10, 11, and 12. Page 63. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. I have encouraged you to have a set-aside attitude, which is the intention of having an open mind and an open heart. It's not a throwaway prayer, so if you have a relationship with a power other than yourself, that is totally satisfactory to you. I'm not asking you to throw it away or even set that aside, as long as you have approached it with an open mind and open heart to see if in fact you are being invited to an upgrade, a larger concept, a larger expectation, and larger hope. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence successfully, as we became conscious of our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. On page 63, he provided what we need, not what we want or think we need, and it has a condition. We have to stay close to him, which is our step 11 conscious contact on the daily. And then Bill says, perform God's work well. So, how do we perform God's work? Are we capable of performing God's work? You might have your own answers, but to me, this means I do what is in the highest good for myself and my fellow man. This sounds like the 12th step to me, carrying the message to other people about a spiritual awakening, about freedom from our addiction and freedom from our burden of bedevilments as they relate to humanity. We become more interested in seeing what we could contribute to life, less self-centered, more other-centered in the healthy sense, not in a codependent style, as Melody Beattie says. Shifting your focus from controlling others to caring for yourself by fostering self-awareness, establishing healthy boundaries, practicing detachment from others' emotions and problems, and prioritizing self-care. This involves learning to rely on yourself, setting and enforcing your own boundaries, and accepting that you cannot control other people's actions or feelings. Shifting your focus from controlling others to caring for yourself by fostering self-awareness, establishing healthy boundaries, practicing detachment from others' emotions and problems, and prioritizing self-care. You will learn to rely on yourself and your own boundaries and accept that you cannot control others. So here is the key aspects. I don't know if you had enough time to see it or not, but the key aspects to Melody Beattie's idea about codependency, because we don't want to get into people pleasing. Being caring to other people does not mean people pleasing. People pleasing is a manipulation, and we don't want to manipulate other people. We want to be caring. On page 63, Bill says, we thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at least abandon ourselves utterly to our higher power. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as a wife, or a partner, as we would call it today, best friend, or spiritual advisor. A sponsor was not introduced for at least another decade, and it's not even in the big book. Then Bill adds, but it is better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand, which is not the case nowadays, as there's plenty of people that you can take the third step with. The wording is, of course, quite optional as long as we express the idea, voicing it without reservation. And what does it mean to you? If you have any reservations, you might want to revisit your step 2 decision. If the God you chose isn't big enough or real enough, or if you're not trusting that power other than yourself, and this is all you can do, is he is willing to be willing to trust. The whole point of recovery is to find a way to turn to be in alignment with the life force. I am not turning my will and my life over to the life force. I am turning my will and my life over to the care of the life force. Consider this life force as the GPS. Remember the analogy of the GPS that we need to listen to and follow the directions? I listen to the direction, and in step 10, when I am disturbed because I have gone against the life force, the principles, dishonesty, resentment, secrets, inappropriate sexual behavior, my emotions will tell me, my conscience will tell me, and I need to make a course correction in order to be in alignment with the life force. Step 3 is to make a decision to be in alignment, and my life is committed to being in that alignment. If I am out of alignment, I will be disturbed, meaning I will have negative emotions, and an awareness that something is off. Bill said in the 12 and 12, whenever we are disturbed, there is something wrong with us. Whenever I am disturbed, I am out of alignment with reality. Remember Locked Up Lisa, the woman in chains? I didn't know how close the key was, and I didn't know I wasn't really trapped because I was so out of alignment with myself and my higher power. But I did get free, even though I didn't realize that I held the key or that there was no door on my cage. As long as I believed and acted as if my fears and thoughts were true, they essentially were. But the key was that I was the one creating the fear and the entrapments I fell into so easily. I had no idea until I did the steps, the deep dive. I think the third time that I needed an upgrade to do the inadequate higher power that I really depended on. Bill says on page 55, with this attitude, you cannot fail. My attitude after my spiritual awakening became one of freedom from the pitfalls of addiction, life's twists and turns. And it was because I left the end result to my creator. I am no longer in the business of control and allow my higher power as much space as I can. I continually turn and recommit. I am human and I have a long memory, so I spend whatever time and effort I need to continue my journey upwards, ever with my creator in the driver's seat. So this was one of the assignments, to write out the third step prayer based on the actual prayer from page 63. This is my own editing, and I'm hoping that people in the group also did the editing and we could share what we've done to the third step prayer. So mine is, God, I offer myself to thee. Please create within me the strength to see things differently. Relieve me of the bondage of my misperceptions, fear of the unknown, and show me a sense of truth and reality so that I may do what is the best and highest good for everyone involved. Take away my doubts and lack of faith so that I may live my life in your endless glory and peace. May I bear witness to those I would co-create your promises with, your immense unconditional love, and your perfect creation of us all. May I co-create with you always. So that ends the PowerPoint. And I'm going to take hands for if people have questions, concerns. If you did a third step revision, I would love to hear it. And I'm sure other people would that maybe haven't had a chance to get this far. So if there's anyone that did the third step or has a question, please raise your hand. And I will call on you, hopefully in the order that you raise your hand. Hi, Annette.
Hi there. I hope you don't mind if I don't turn on my camera. I'm kind of
Not a
in my
worry.
jammies. So I did rewrite my third step prayer. It was just my first draft, but I'll read it anyway.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Higher power, take me, heal me. Free me from the chains of self-centeredness that I may be in alignment with your principles. Free me from pain as the people I encounter will notice my healing and may also wish to walk this path. May I live in this program through your grace, your love, and your strength. Well, that's it.
That's fantastic.
Well, thank you.
And you said you're still going to be revising it?
Well, that was my kind of my on Sunday, my sort of my first draft, but as I read it, I thought there would be a couple little things I wanted to change, just to improve maybe the flow of it.
Okay. Because sounds fantastic.
But yeah, it was pretty deep
Yeah.
and it was very good, very good practice. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Appreciate it.
Hi, Carol B.
Hi. I have to go get my prayer. It's in the other room. So I'll go get
Okay. We'll wait for you.
it back.
Yay.
Mine is kind of short, but
That's okay. There's no length that it has to be.
okay. Dear God, please guide my thoughts and actions each and every day. Help me carry out thy will and show me how to be the best person I can be. I pray for wisdom, courage, power, compassion, and love. I hope I can be a channel for all your goodness and contribute all to the flow of life. Please give me the strength to be helpful to my husband, my son, my fellows, my family, and especially you. Thy will be done.
Excellent. Very good. Did you have a hard time with that, or did it come really easy?
No, I had a hard time. I really did have a hard time. I'm not adept at writing or speaking, and it just doesn't come naturally for me. But
You,
I
you
wanted, I
never know
wanted,
it.
what I wanted to do the assignment, and I wanted to share
And you did great.
it.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Hey, Rivers.
Hey, Lisa. Hi, everyone. All right. Dear Yahweh, please set aside everything I think I know about you, my connection to you, and the relationship we share. Please set aside everything I think I know about myself, my history, my health, physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually, socially, spiritually. Please set aside everything I think I know about my life, my recovery, the 12 Steps to Spiritual Awakening course I'm taking, and the 12 steps themselves. Also, please set aside the work I did before so I could have a new experiments, experience. Please set aside, oh my goodness. Um, please set aside, I lost my place. The 12 steps, the homework, set aside, um, okay, the work I did before and the new work that I'm coming into for a new experience of all these things, and especially new experiences and awakenings to you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How did you find?
I wrote it and I keep thinking, okay, I'm going to rewrite it, and then I have like cross outs and arrows and I haven't rewritten it. And so, yeah.
So maybe just a rewrite, or do you think you'll revise it?
I'll see what happens as I just start flowing with rewriting it if something shifts and changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Okay, Joel. Joel, you got to unmute a little bit. We do
Since
want
I
to.
wasn't, now I can now. Well,
Yeah.
since I wasn't here last week, I sort of combined the homework assignments a little bit, and I was looking for like the word that I was going to use to describe God or the entity or my higher power, and I chose the word Pathfinder
Okay.
because I need to find a pathway, and
Okay.
that's my difficulty. I still haven't gone as far as some of the nice people in the group, and I think that my current revision of this um, step three uh, is a reflection of that, and hopefully it will change as time goes on. So this is what I wrote, and this is the way it reflects at this time. God, I am lost and need to find my way. I am offering myself to you to do with me as you will, although I have no proof yet that you exist, but I wish to understand. Relieve me of my doubts enough to follow without a heavy heart. Relieve me of the heavy weight of self, my ego, and my reliance on a history of failure of my will and of my brokenness. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help with your power and love and your way of life. May I have the vision to do your will, wish you work forever. And I left that pretty much the way it was.
So tell us about writing this coming from a point of view of not even sure about a higher power. How did
Well, it's not it's the kind of thing where, my own willfulness is being my worst enemy. And I'm having a lot of trouble breaking the fence that divides me and the connection, like the boat and the shore. It's like there's still a beach and a lot of water there. And maybe it's because I'm so self-centered that I just, am having a very tough time letting go. But I hope to be able to do that.
Well, that's the willingness, that just even that you wrote the prayer out, you're willing to sit down and say, I'm going to write out a prayer, even though I don't know what I'm praying to. And it's a process. You're not going to get there,
Yeah. I
like,
understand that, and that's what I get, and that's the hopefulness. I mean, that somebody didn't, go like this when I did that and say, "Up, you're out, goodbye."
no, no, not at
No,
all. I mean,
no.
just even the courage to speak means you have the willingness. So,
Yeah, and I'm hoping that a person who for 66 years hasn't had, uh, I mean, I grew up in a house where my parents said, "How could there be a God who allowed Adolf Hitler to massacre 6 million Jews and countless other people and cause a war that killed 50 million people and there being all this around the world? How could there be a God who manages all of this and says it's good?" And that coincides with the conception of God as being that person who hurls lightning bolts down from a big chair up in the sky.
right,
But it's very, very hard when you grew up with that and you to really, conceptualize as God as being something else completely. And
right,
now my wife's a very religious person, and she's been talking to me for years about, about being, about her as opposed to me, and not in that way,
right,
not in the,
right.
but and I just haven't got it. But maybe at this, really looking inside, maybe I will at this point because I've never really taken the opportunity to do that because I've been dismissing it for all these years.
Well, don't forget you've been in addiction, which is self will run riot, which includes how we feel about a higher power. So in the beginning, when we're trying to come to terms with a higher power, that self will run riot picks up energy and says, I got to really keep him away from this because this self will's got to have a life. And if you have a higher power, it has no life. And it's an egotistical kind of voice that
Yeah.
goes on in the head.
Well, it was certainly an unconscious sort of argument because when I was spending all that money, I wasn't thinking of God. I was thinking about how much fun it was to spend all that money.
Right,
You know?
right. So you've got the key components. Just don't let it go. Don't give up.
No, no, I'm not giving up. I'm just hoping that as time goes on, for a person who is a non-believer, that I somehow find find the wherewithal to believe in something bigger than myself.
Right.
Whether it's this group or whether it's some conception of the universe or nature or whatever it is that, I finally get it. And from what I've been reading, it sometimes takes a very long time and it takes multiple
It could
journeys through the steps, but I hope it doesn't do that for me because
doesn't
I
have to.
don't want to have to go through that.
It doesn't have to.
No.
Some people are very steadfast in their holding on to control over everything, and if you're not, then you're going to have an edge up on that. But
Yeah, well,
that's the
that's
willingness.
so far I've been the opposite. I've been holding on to control too much, but
But you're here, so
yes.
you have the right ingredients. You just don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And you're not saying I don't believe. You're saying I don't know. I don't know is so much better than I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know says I want to, and I just need to see what that means instead of, no,
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not doing this. It's never
No, I
happened.
definitely want to, and I understand that maybe the problem lies in the level of my commitment. Maybe I need to commit 100% because I'm still being drawn by the other side of it. But we'll see.
Yep, it's a process. And
It's a
once
problem.
we go through the fourth step, a lot of that changes then too. The fourth step really, I hope everybody sticks it out and goes through the fourth step, because if you can get through that fourth step, your life is going to change. I'm not going to tell you it's not, because it is. Absolutely. It's huge, because we learn so much and we get to express so much in that fourth step. I mean, you could have a resentment maybe towards your parents because they never gave you that spirituality that you're looking for now in your 60s, So a lot of people don't try to find God till they get in their 60s and 70s because they've been having too much fun.
Well,
So
yeah.
yeah, you're not a
Well,
rarity.
they also do it for another reason too, I think. But I don't want. I'm not doing it for that reason. I'm doing it because I just want to enjoy without guilt the what I do. Without doing what I do, changing what I do.
Exactly. You will get there, I promise.
I hope so.
Yep, just keep showing up. That's half the battle. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Hi, Mark.
Hi. So I did a step 3 prayer, and I broke it into the different parts. So I'm going to read it how I broke it down. So, God, I offer myself to thee. So, Most High, I'm giving you my life and my thoughts to build with me and do with me as thou wilt, to improve and construct the life and prosperity you want for me. Relieve me of the bonds of self. Purge me with a soft wind of the prison of doubt and matrix thinking, that I may better do thy will, that I may be of service to you in many. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Remove my health struggles and all of my problems, the ones I see and the ones I don't, that victory over them may bear witness to those you want. I made a mistake, but you want me to help with all your blessings, living your way of life. That's it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And how did you feel putting it together? Was it hard for you, or did it just flow, or
I think the weirdest thing for me about the assignment is I actually did it before I did the rest of the assignment. So I actually did it backwards. Like I did it before the readings. So I did all of the readings like after.
okay.
So that's probably the, like, even though I like kind of looked at it and looked, that's kind of strange. I just kind of like I did it first, and then I was kind of like, well, it's taking a little bit longer. And then afterward, I was like, well, yeah, it would have been easier if I had done the readings first. But I um I think that's what I would answer to what you asked me.
Well, you definitely went in with a clean slate, so you know who knows what different response you might have written. But feel free to write another one. Now that you've done all the reading, maybe as people hear, different versions, they might want to change theirs up a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for talking. Hi, Nancy.
Hello. So for mine, I have really been focused on the self-centeredness and selfishness
Okay.
this time around. And all right. And I always change the word God, but I always go back to the word God.
I know.
Yeah.
You know what? It's just a word. If it
It
works,
is.
if it works,
Yeah.
use it.
I would choose creative intelligence like Bill used,
Okay.
but God is so easy.
I know. I know.
Okay, so God, I bring my broken self to you for repair. Ease my self centered thoughts so healthier thoughts can flourish. Take hold of my struggles, my self made obstacles, so your success and your influence is visible to others through the power and miracles of my freedom. That's
That's
it.
awesome. Now, how did you feel about doing this? Did it
Um, well, I was open and ready to do it because I've done it in her before.
okay?
And it took away all my, oh, it has to be as mighty as the third step prayer. Um, I just, um, I addressed it from the broken place I've been with this addiction. And it helped me just keep it small and
Okay.
focus on that it's my thinking and my selfish thoughts that have gotten me into trouble all along. So there's a whole new place of humility for me. And I think that's exactly where I should be at this stage.
Absolutely.
And whoever hasn't gone through these steps that are from Herb's path, um, it, I have seen miracles. Miracles have happened in my life. I've had so much healed from this process that nothing ever touched. So um, I I just think it's the greatest it's the greatest thing out there in the world right now
Mm-hmm.
for people to have transformations.
Yeah.
And I've just been looking everywhere my whole life. So um, luckily COVID hit and Herb started his work, and now you're carrying it on, which is wonderful. And I've really enjoyed all your presentations.
Thank you. I appreciate
So
that.
thank you. All right,
Thank you,
thanks.
Nancy. Yeah, I didn't think we'd ever think there was something good that came out of COVID, but there has been a lot. Hi, Linda J.
Hi, this is a rough draft. It may change. I'm just trying to put something out here to fill it.
Okay.
I put, God, I offer myself to strengthen me to follow your will and to relieve me from my bondage of fear and the brokenness. Take away the difficulties of my addiction to show me the victories to bear the truth witness of your love, your power, to live in honesty and the truth, and thy will be done.
Tell us about your experience with it.
I just kind of read the third step prayer. I've been trying to do the set aside prayer every day, and it has worked. I've changed it to almost how things are happening for the week or the month. And so when I saw this, I thought, oh, well, we tried this to kind of coincide with that one. And so that's how I kind of
And you felt comfortable
drafted up a
doing
little
it?
bit. I
Nice.
did. Yes, I did. Yeah.
That's excellent. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So, if you have written a prayer, or even if you haven't, I'm going to suggest that you put it on your nightstand. I want you to read it every night for the next 7 days. So I want to hear about what happens as you guys read these every night. When we come back next time, I want to hear if you felt any difference in your life, or maybe you're feeling like it's contributing to a stronger relationship, which is what step 3 is about, with your higher power, or whatever you're feeling about it. So every night for the next 7 days, I'd like to see you guys reading these before bed and really thinking about them. If you want to revise them, go ahead and revise them, and you can come back and say, well, after I read mine for 7 days, I did make a revision. So whatever it is, next 7 days, put it out there, and we'll have a little discussion about it next week. Thank you, Linda. Hi, Sarah.
Hello there. Okay. See, some of these people did quite masterful jobs of writing, and I'm very impressed. My issue is that I've always enjoyed the third step, this prayer, the way it was written, and I've used it often. But I read what the assignment was. I said, okay. So I looked at it and I expanded it really. Please relieve me. What I like is please remove from me the bondage of self. That I've always loved, that bondage of self. But I thought, okay, I defined it. What is the bondage of self? And for me, it's please remove from me my selfishness, self-centeredness, dishonesty, arrogance, judgment of others, so that I may better align myself um, with your will for me, and then bear witness. I thought that's kind of an old term. I'm comfortable with these words, even though they're pretty old fashioned. But I thought, well, okay, what does bear witness mean? Um, uh, and also, I'm still looking at how to define the bear witness. But please remove. First I called them character defects. I thought, no, they're not really defects. They're like coping mechanisms. I like that better. But please remove these coping mechanisms that hold me back, so that victory over them will demonstrate to other people your way of life. That I can. I guess I'm still working on it. This is a draft. I'm glad you want us to continue working on it, because I do think I will make other additions. But it's a prayer I have used frequently, almost to the point of being a mantra. But I'm expanding what some of these old-fashioned words are, and I guess I need to look some up in the dictionary. But I do appreciate other people's willingness to share what they've written, and some of them are really quite beautiful. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And if the words work, use whatever words work, even if they're old fashioned, because maybe that's what resonates with you. So whatever works, there's no right or wrong. If you like the older words, use the older words.
Yeah, thanks.
Definitely. So do your every night for the next week, and then report back. And I'm expecting we'll hear a little revision when we speak to you again. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay.
If nobody else has any questions or anything, I'm going to close with the serenity prayer. God, please grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.